Okay, good
There we go.
afternoon, everyone. Happy St. Patrick's Day and welcome to our webinar on one of our newest features, public posting. I know we all have a lot going on right now and just appreciate you joining us today. I would like to introduce Jenny Washington. Let's see if I can get everything to go through. So, hi Jenny, how are you?
Great, Dean. Thanks very
And
much.
so Jenny's one of our implementation managers here, and I'm a customer success manager at Passageways. And like many of you, we are in different locations working from home today. So I will say thanks in advance for bearing with us. And if we experience any technical or audio issues today, we will also be joined later on in the call by Heather Fazey. Heather's from the Kentucky Council for Post-Secondary Education. She's one of our customers who's going to explain how public posting has just been a great tool for her and her organization. So before we get started, I wanted to cover a few housekeeping items. If you locate the toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see several helpful tools for the call today. The Q&A button will be to ask any questions you would like, and we will answer these either through the Q&A tool directly or just live on the webinar. You can also utilize the chat button if you're having any issues and need assistance from us. And as always, please feel free to submit your questions throughout the webinar or during the designated time later on. Okay, so before we get started, one last housekeeping thing I wanted to mention is just that this webinar recording will be available in a few days on our YouTube channel and on our community page shown here. This is where you can also find our previous webinar recordings, such as the one we had last month discussing meeting prep and follow-up. As for our agenda today, Jenny will be giving you an introduction to public posting, discussing open meeting laws, and explaining the workflow to publicly post a meeting from OnBoard. We will then have our customer presentation from Heather and review a special offer for those who are interested in adding on the public posting feature. And we'll wrap up with some Q&A and give you some insight into our future product enhancements and next month's webinar. I will now turn it over to Jenny.
Great. Thanks so much, Dean. So let me just switch gears here for just a moment. There we go. I think we're good. So as Dean mentioned, our featured product is our public posting. And I want to tell you a little bit about this. If you're not already familiar, we have sent out some emails when we had our release. Feel free to go back also and check for those things. So what is OnBoard public posting? Well, it was created in hopes to really empower those of you on the call today and anyone that is required by statutory obligation to share their information publicly with their stakeholders and constituents. So whether that's providing notice of your meetings, your agendas, any and all material for full transparency. And what OnBoard does is it gives everything in one click available to you with a URL. So here we have just a quick preview, and I'll be walking you through from the product side how this would actually work. And then Heather is going to actually give us a tour of how they are using public posting and integrating it through their website. So again, yes, you can seamlessly integrate the OnBoard public posting feature with your website if you would like. One of the benefits there is hopefully if you have IT resources, you can help minimize the need or reliance on other departments to help you get those materials made available. Certainly from a compliance standpoint, it's important that you do make sure that you are adhering to whatever your open meeting laws or open meeting acts suggest or require. And we'll be going through that. And then, of course, just increasing the capability for transparency. So today, perhaps you're doing a couple of things. With public posting, you might want to look at being even more transparent in terms of the information that you're sharing out. And I will mention that here in a couple of slides coming up, we're going to actually ask you to answer a couple of questions. If you are interested in public posting, this is available to everyone as an add-on to what you're currently doing today with your OnBoard or AGB OnBoard portal. So keep that in mind, and we'll talk to you a little bit more about how you can share your interest with us so that we can get in touch with you. And who is typically needing to comply with these open meeting laws or open meeting acts? Well, many of you on the call today are part of our AGB OnBoard higher education members. So any kind of education public board, including committees, would typically fall into this category of needing to publicly post. Also, from a government agency standpoint, state or local boards and councils or city boards. Of some nonprofit organizations, not necessarily all. So sometimes hospitals, homeowners associations is a common one. Other kind of private entities that receive public funding. I'm sure if you're on the call today, you are aware if this is something that applies to your organization. And again, just any kind of other public agency that might be receiving funds and need to fall under that category. So maintaining compliance, right? This is very important. So some of you, depending on the state that you're in, it might be referred to as Open Meeting Act, open meeting laws, in some states, sunshine laws. So oftentimes we hear about this and termed a little bit differently, right? And again, this is probably something that you're already very familiar with. I'm going to mention just kind of some commonalities that fall with the Open Meeting Acts or open meeting laws. So basically, in a nutshell, if you are a federal or state government agency, your meetings or regulated by such, your meetings must be open to the public along with decisions and records. Again, I mentioned some nonprofits do fall into that category. And again, each state tends to have their own prescribed set of open meeting laws or open meeting acts. And Heather is going to share with us what some of those are in the state that she's in of Kentucky. And of course, public posting tends to be just one aspect, right? Other things would be making sure that the meeting schedule is available, and then of course even allowing the public into the meetings. So I know some of you have different requirements and they do vary across the country. So I did a little bit of research. And so I know there's a bit of a gray area there some of you are working in. So some states say you just have to have a reasonable notice of your meeting schedule. Some dictate a specific time frame, like 24 hours or a specific number of days. Other states, it looks like you have to actually put your full schedule for the entire year out there, publicly posted. And in talking with some of our customers who have already started to apply the OnBoard public posting as part of their features with OnBoard, I've heard different things like media outlets sometimes need to be communicated to, even posting flyers in designated public locations, and of course, online. So at this point, we're just kind of interested in understanding and polling you on what it is that you're doing today. So if I can do this correctly, I am going to launch this particular poll. And you should be on your screen seeing some questions. So what is your organization doing today to comply with your state's Open Meetings Act or laws? Please select all that apply. So I'm going to give you guys a moment. If you would kindly just kind of read through. If it doesn't apply to you, go ahead and select that first option. And let us know if for some reason you're not seeing it up on the screen. And really here what we're, okay, so it looks like I've gotten some feedback. You might have to actually, even though I have the poll up, you might have to click on the polls menu item in your Zoom controls if it's not already showing on your screen. So in your where the Q&A and the chat is, if you would click on the polls if it's not coming up, and I'll give you guys just a few more seconds here.
Jenny?
Yeah.
Okay, so with being a nonprofit, I'm not sure. I mean, we're not really big yet, so I'm not really sure if we fall under that.
Yeah, if you were required. Okay. Thank you for attending. What we can do is a little bit later on, we're going to have one kind of final poll. And if you're interested, feel free to answer yes there in terms of having us reach out to you, or just connect with me afterwards directly, and we can look at your specific state.
Okay, so what would I check?
So go ahead and just do the first one for now.
Okay.
Yeah, I probably should have had we're unsure.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry about that. I knew I was forgetting something. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and end this poll. It looks like there's a few things kind of coming in. All right, I think we're pretty good. So thank you guys so much. If you did have the opportunity to do that, we're going to take a look at that. Let's see. So I'm sharing the results if you're interested. If you're seeing it on the screen, we do have a decent number of you, about 3/4, actually saying that you don't believe that you are required to do any kind of public posting. Perhaps you are affiliated with maybe another board or organization that does. So keep OnBoard in general in mind, and this public posting feature. And then we'll kind of go through and look at this. I'm kind of looking down the very last one about we promote maximum transparency by publicly posting or sharing more than just the minimum. And 18% of you, of those that are required, answer that. So that's really fantastic. So I'm going to stop sharing those results, and we're just going to kind of move on here. And again, feel free to either unmute yourself or go ahead and post something in the Q&A if you have a question, and Dean will be watching for that. So ultimately with public posting, one of the things that we want to do is make sure that you are getting to your stakeholders and your constituents in a way that's going to support your mission and your vision. So by sharing your public meeting information, obviously it promotes proactive transparency, which can lead to greater trust. We hope then you have more engaged constituents, and then ultimately more action. And what could that more action look like? Well, it could be the outcome of more donations, or maybe more volunteers, activism on behalf of your organization, attendance at the meetings by public constituents and stakeholders, and then of course just in general engagement. So again, those are some of the things that we were looking at when we decided to focus on helping all of you and those other groups that do need to publicly post have a better way to do that. So at this point, I'm going to actually kind of walk you through just how easy it is to use this. So this will give you a little bit of taste of what it will look like if you had public posting within your OnBoard organization. So I've kind of really stripped this down to really like the 3 main steps. So step 1 is you start with your meeting, and everything begins at the meeting. So you actually will build your agenda as you normally would, attach all of your materials, and then when you're ready, you're going to start the publication or publishing process. At that point, you're going to be able to select the content, and you can choose to deselect all the documents by clicking on a button. So if only you are sharing your agenda, you can easily deselect the actual materials, or you can leave everything selected. If there's something that shouldn't be open to the public, you can go through and uncheck any of those particular boxes. And then really the second step is up here, you're gonna, once you make those decisions, publish your meeting. And then once you publish, you're gonna get this URL. This URL then can easily be shared, and there's multiple ways that you can share that, including just simply passing along the URL. You can also integrate that with your website, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that. If you were to integrate it with your website, here is what it might look like on the page. So people that follow that link would be taken to a page like this, and it would share with them the information that you selected to be shared. And it looks like we've got a couple things coming in the chat, so I'm going to have Dean take a look at that. Thank you, Fenella and Hugh. Okay, so many of you are probably thinking or we're going to be asking about ADA compliance, ADA regulations, and accessibility. So what does that mean? So anytime you're publicly posting information, you have to be cognizant of who is your audience. And we have people that might be using screen readers. So if they have a disability in terms of sight or hearing, they might be using different types of tools to help them consume your information. And so with public posting, we have designed this with accessibility and ADA compliance in mind. And so when you do get ready to post, you will see that you'll get this warning. You can choose to select to not have it show it to you again, but it tells you that if you are to make sure it's optimized for ADA compliance and accessibility, that you convert your documents to PDF. I know many of you already are doing that, or that was your practice before you transition over to OnBoard. But if you are going to utilize public posting, you will want to convert your materials over to PDF before you upload them to your agendas. Okay. So there are a few different options when it comes to posting your material. So I just want to kind of walk you through what those are. So everything starts with the meeting level. You can decide if you want to share out the URLs that are specific to just the meetings. If you did that, you would get a page like this that just is specifying one specific meeting. Or you can do your entire kind of organization view. So all publicly posted meetings would be in one big list, which is advantageous perhaps for your website. And Heather will be showing us how they're incorporating this particular option into their website. And then also, I've seen some organizations on their website have a full year view and also a committee level view. So if you would like to share or publish just those meetings specific to your groups, which are usually committees, you can also do that. So those are the three different ways that you can publish and share out the information: by specific meeting, at your entire organization level, and then also by committee or group. So I'm seeing some kind of questions come into the chat and the Q&A. I just want to pause here. Feel free to let us know, Dean, how are we doing there, or if there's anything that I can answer live, be happy to do that.
Yeah, we've just gotten a few questions here. I've been responding to those. And again, it does work out probably best if everyone can use the Q&A tool versus the chat tool, but either way, we are happy to answer these. One question we had, a follow-up from Fenella, was, will this integrate with either current website? So it looks like that's what you're going through right now, Jenny, but you can talk a little bit more to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Fenella, I think you'll like when we flip over, and Heather Fazey with the Kentucky Council on Post-Secondary Education is going to show us what it looks like on her website so that you can actually see it live as it's working on their site. Fantastic. And then I think I saw a question about add-on. I think I answered that earlier, but just to mention that again, this public posting feature is available as an add-on because, of course, we know not all of our OnBoard family members are publicly held or required to comply with these types of open meeting logs and laws on publicly posting their information. So that's why it is available as an add-on. Okay. So at this point, I am going to transition over here and introduce our guest. So Heather Fazee, who you're seeing on the screen and you're going to be hearing from in just a moment, is the Senior Associate of Board Relations and Special Projects at the Kentucky Council of Post-Secondary Education. Gosh, if I can get that out. CPE for short, as that is a mouthful. And just a little bit about Heather. Heather is from Kentucky, and she's been with CPE, or the Kentucky Council on Post-Secondary Education, for about 7 years. And she serves as both a liaison to the board, and she also plans and executes all the board meetings, as you might expect. She also oversees board training and orientation programs, which is very important for the Kentucky's public post-secondary education members, and she coordinates their annual trusteeship conference and other types of board education events. Prior to joining CPE, she's had a variety of different passions and positions, including accountancy, management, state government, and K-12 education. So with that, I am actually going to give her remote control, and she's going to tell us a little bit about their specific experience with public posting for OnBoard.
Hi.
Hi, Heather.
Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes, thanks.
Fabulous. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for letting me be here. The Kentucky Council on Post-Secondary Education is quite a mouthful, and we often refer to ourselves as the CPE or the council. So if I say that interchangeably, it's all related to who we are. I thought before I, let's see, there we go. Before I really get started, I thought it might be helpful to kind of explain to you what our organization is. We are a coordinating agency, and we have a board of 15 members that are able to vote, and all of those are appointed by the governor. Our work is really quite varied, but some of our largest responsibilities include developing and implementing statewide agendas, developing a biennial budget request for not just our agency, but all of the institutions and colleges in Kentucky. We also have to determine tuition ceilings, approve academic programs, and then we're also responsible for licensing all of the non-public post-secondary education institutions. And this is all on our board and our staff. And so as you can imagine, this takes a massive amount of collaboration and materials and research with our institutions and our partners across the state. And so being open and transparent is not only required, but it's absolutely necessary in order for us to be able to complete our mission. So that's why I am really glad to be here, and I'm able to talk about our experience and how OnBoard has helped. This just kind of gives you a visual of how our organization is set up. CPE, like I said, is our coordinating body. And below that, you can see are all the governing bodies that we work with. We have 8 public universities, and each of those have their own governing board. The box that states KCTCS is the governing board of the community and technical college system. And then each of them have 16 campuses who have their own advisory boards. We apparently really like boards in Kentucky. My position does not work with those boards directly, but I do work with their board liaisons to keep our communications open. And then we also have over 50 non-public colleges and universities licensed. Now, luckily, I don't have to work with those directly, but we do have to offer optional board educational opportunities with them. Again, this is a very large group, and so being open and transparent is essential. Let's see if I can get this to forward. There we go. So Jenny's already talked about open meetings laws, and so I really won't cover this much, but essentially Kentucky does require that public agencies must make their schedule of meetings available, but also the actual meetings open to the public. And so that includes not just your main boards, but all the committees and the subcommittees that are created by that board or agency. Our board the 15 members on my board included in their bylaws to take that a step further. And they want all agendas, all related materials to be released to the public prior to a meeting. And so to do that, we had to implement a fairly complicated process. And so I think the first thing I want to do is show you what our website looked like before. This is just a screenshot, and it functioned fine. I mean, it's there. We were able to put all of our meetings out there. So this was our schedule of meetings. And then as materials became available on that column on the far right, we were able to include a link. But here's the problem. There were two main issues with this. The first one is the process that it took to get the materials posted to that website. And I'm going to touch on that more in a minute. But I want to go ahead and mention the second one, which was a potential for input error. Meeting information had to be typed in, put in multiple places. First, I had to put it in OnBoard, but then I had to go to our website and type it in again. And by doing this manually, it created this possibility of human error and inconsistency. And then if changes were made to a location or time of the meeting, I had to make sure I went back and updated the information in every location. Now, I'm sure if your positions require as much multitasking as mine does, you know that when you have to do things in multiple places, there will be errors. And what's interesting is the screenshot actually captures one of those. If you see the very first meeting date that's there, it's the executive committee on March 5th. It was listed here on March 5th. And when our public notice went out, it was noticed for March 5th because our communications team uses our website as the basis for its notice. But that was actually wrong. It was, the meeting was actually on March 6th, and it was corrected on OnBoard, and it was in all of our related materials, but it was simply typed wrong on our website. So this doesn't happen often, but I'm sure this has happened in your case as well. And so this is one of the many things that I knew needed a solution. Now, to go back to our first issue that I mentioned, the process for making materials available was, I can honestly say, just a chore, and I'm going to show you what I mean. If you're an agency that is already involved in public posting materials, this process probably mirrors a lot of what you already experience. But first, you know, as the board coordinator, my job involves building the agenda for the meetings based on board member and staff feedback. I coordinate the process, I review and edit materials, I compile the needed items, track down missing items. Sometimes I have to write items from scratch. This probably all sounds very familiar. But, you know, unfortunately, the job isn't done there. And now I'm going to be responsible for also finalizing, distributing. And in my case, I'm also the person who puts everything on our website, as our IT people do not do that. So for the public posting portion of the job, once I had everything complete and uploaded into OnBoard, I would let the packet build and download it and save the PDF copy of it to my computer. Now, our website, our webmaster, has very strict rules. And so I had to go back into the PDF, manually set the properties. I had to optimize the files. I had to get it set in the way that they wanted it before I could even put it on the website. And then, so once that was done, I had to go to the website, upload it, hyperlink it, and publish the page. I also had to go back and test the link. Hopefully this is sounding familiar because these are all just the different steps. And hopefully you would think that you're done. But as you know, it never ends there. Staff members always find something misspelled. They have grammar changes, data or figures change, agendas get updated. That first published job is never the last. And I'll often have to have at least 2 changes per meeting, sometimes 5 and 6 changes. And with each change, I had to start the process all over again. I call this my circle of woe. And by the time the meeting came, I was ready to pull my hair out because something had to be done. And so that's where OnBoard came in. I expressed the need and they were willing to step up and really work with me and helping. They actually asked for my opinion on how to build this. And so that's why it's really exciting to be here. With the implementation of this public posting option, I have been able to take away each of these steps that are marked with the red X. PDF downloads, preference settings, website hyperlinks are now a thing of the past. And I'm going to show you what I mean here. I'm going to click on this. Let's hope this works. Oops. Oh, previous.
There we go. Okay.
Just needed a second.
There we go.
All right. So this is our website, our current meeting website. I showed you before it was all manually typed in. This is how we have integrated OnBoard's public facing page onto our own. Not sure who is very familiar with iframes, but it is a code in which you can embed a picture or embed not a picture, but an actual website inside of your own. So all of this up here is actually typed in, and then there's an HTML code for an iframe, and we use the OnBoard main public facing page with all of the meetings listed as what it goes in here. Excuse me. So the iframe is set for a specific length, and so I have multiple meetings already being shown, and so it creates this little scroll down, and you can see that I've already made public meeting dates through the end of the year. There are more for me to add, but those dates still have yet to be set. And so this allows us to go ahead and comply with meeting the schedule of meetings being available. Now within this are hyperlinks to the actual meeting agendas. There are 3 different ways that I'm going to show you this, and I'll go kind of backwards here, but this March 25th meeting, I know we don't have an agenda for, but I was able to go ahead and release what the meeting day, time, location, and such were. Up above here, we have this kind of little thing stating that agendas for upcoming meetings are posted about a week prior to the meeting date. So that's already kind of out there. So if a person goes and clicks on it, they will see there is no agenda here. However, it does say that I published it on this date, and they know that something is coming, that it's just not been released yet. They can hit the little back arrow to go back to my main page, and there's that. Now that's what all these down here from April on, they're all just dates and times. There is no agenda out there. For the executive committee on March 6th, which was the correct date, we were able to release the agenda. Now, originally we had the materials as well, but I took those off just so that you could see what it looked like with just the agenda. And what's really neat about this is that you're actually able to do print screens from this too. So someone could print the agenda, and the print is going to look how your iframe will. You can actually make this a little bit smaller, but it prints out very nice, very clean, and it looks professional. Close this out. Actually, tomorrow we have a finance committee meeting, and we are going to be doing this all by Zoom and live streaming on YouTube. So it was really important for us to be able to get our materials out to the public. This is the agenda, and this is what it looks like when you put all of your PDFs in with your agenda and release those out. They can click on the agenda and download each one, just like they would for anything else, but that's up to them. So this is how we've been able to manage this, and it's been very, very helpful. The good thing about this is that I don't have to retype meeting information. I don't have to risk putting in a wrong date or location. And if a location changes, such as this week when something went from an in-person meeting to a live stream, I don't have to worry about updating it in more than one place. I can just do it in OnBoard, and that's it. Let's see, I need to go back to the...
Yeah, I think, let me see if I can do... There we go.
All right, thank you.
Let me see.
So,
okay.
So with this, I just want to show you kind of how this whole process has changed. You know, as a board professional, that first part of my job doesn't change. We still are required to compile in a normal manner, and we still need to upload them into OnBoard. But after that, that's where it's different. Instead of downloading a PDF of the book, I simply go to the settings menu. I select the content I want to make available to the public, and then I click publish. And I can trust that the materials go directly to our OnBoard public-facing page. And since that's already displayed inside an iframe on our website, there's no additional step needed now. Now, I say when, not if. When a staff member has a change, the process does repeat itself, but it is so much less of a headache than it used to be. Everything is located within OnBoard, and I no longer have to do anything with PDFs or on the website. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't add a fun smiley face here, because that's exactly how I feel about the process. I no longer am pulling out hair. That's only reserved for other things. So just to kind of, recap a little bit, I just want to explain to you very specifically how this has helped me and how it's helped CPE. This saves a ton of time. It makes the process seamless. Potential errors are now done. It keeps us in compliance, and we know and can trust that it's there. I don't have to keep constantly question at 9 p.m. when I'm supposed to be going to bed whether I got something done. It looks professional. I mean, it really fits into our website, and it looks like it's part of it. The fonts are very similar. I don't know if that was just Cosmet, but it worked fantastic. Now, most important in my opinion is this has saved my sanity, and I don't want to kill my coworkers. So, this has been really helpful, and I'm glad that you allowed me to come in and talk about our experience with it, and I'm sure that it's going to help quite a bit. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Heather, and we really appreciate it, because I think nothing tells the story better than you as a customer that has gone through this and has come out on the other side and can share what the impact has been. So we really appreciate that. We do have a couple other slides, and then we're going to open it up to some questions. I'm sure you guys might have some specifically for Heather or for Dean or myself. But first, I want to kind of go back to what Dean shared with you as part of our agenda for today's session, and that is that we are promoting a limited time special offer discount of 20% off of the public posting. So any of you and all of our customers, even if, of course, you weren't able to attend today, we're going to be doing a follow-up email, so please watch for that, that reminds you about this 20% discount offer. It's just valid at this point through the end of the month, so you will need to take some action quickly. And we have a full support team here to answer any questions and do personalized demonstrations for you. And with that, I just want to mention that as part of our customer success and overall customer experience team, we have a couple of specific individuals that are part of our growth team. So if you do want to schedule a session with us to learn a little bit more, you'll probably hear from either Sean Conley, who is new to our team as the team lead for our growth as a growth manager, and then Adam Jividin as well. So those are just a couple of faces and names that I wanted to mention to you in case you do want to learn a little bit more. And with that, I have one more very quick poll just so that we can capture for those of you that are on the call today. I'm going to launch this. So it is launched. If you could go back to your Zoom controls and click on the polls if it's not popping up, and go ahead and if you would respond there. Of course, if you don't need to comply with open meeting acts or open meeting laws at this time, just say not at this time. Otherwise, we will be getting in touch with you to schedule a session. So your customer success manager or implementation manager, if you're still in the implementation and launch process, will be on that call along with either Sean or Adam so that we take good care of you. So, all right, I've given you guys a couple of seconds there. So now to the most important piece here, I think, really is to hear some of your feedback and questions, and feel free to direct those to Heather. I'm going to put her on the spot a little bit. Again, use the Q&A if you would to start, and we'll try to answer some of these live. And
Jenny, we do have one question in the chat about meeting accessibility guidelines.
Yeah. So on that previous slide, let me see if I can jump. Let's see if I can jump back to it. Bear with me for just a moment. The one on accessibility. You'll notice, if I can get back, bear with me. We have not only some information that reminds you when you're publicly posting through OnBoard that you should use PDFs, but we also have a link to this resource here. So within your organization or on your campus, you might have an office dedicated to that. Feel free to, of course, reach out to them by all means, but we also have taken some of that information and put it into a resource here. I'll make sure that as a follow-up, we get that shared with you as well, since we don't have the direct link. Hopefully that answered that question. Great, you're welcome, Fenella. Any other questions for our team at this point, or for Heather, or just general comments? We would love to hear them. And we've got just about 4 more minutes left in our session today. So while I give you guys a couple minutes, I'm just going to advance back to where we're ready for the last few slides. I'm sure there's a better way to do this. I will learn that for next time. All right. And so I see that we have a question about pricing. So we are very sensitive to different types of organizations that are currently using OnBoard. So we do have some different pricing structures. And if you answered yes to that poll question, when we reach out to you, we will be sure and talk to you specifically about how that pricing will work with the discount for you. So depending on whether you're part of our Association of Governing Boards or AGB members or a nonprofit, we've got some special pricing. So with that, feel free to continue to put your questions in, because we have just a couple of minutes left, I want to show you a little bit of a sneak preview about some things that we are currently working on, hopefully to kind of get you excited about things that are going to be coming. So we've got 3 different things. The first one that I would like to show you is an improved board book build experience. So for all of you that are involved in building out the book, this is going to have a new look. So I've got just a couple of screenshots here. So the first one that you're seeing is of your meeting details page. You'll notice that the links that would say attendees or open book now are more like buttons. They're interactive. So when you do start to add materials or make a change that would trigger your book to build, you're going to have more real-time insights and information to let you know where that's at in the process. I know at some point it may have been a point of frustration if something happened and maybe you had a document in there and just didn't work very well with OnBoard, and maybe you received some type of a issue or error. That's going to be a lot more clear to you, and you're going to know how you can troubleshoot that with some tips. But the first step is it's going to tell you that your book is going to build. And we're going to now actually schedule your books to build, rather than every time you make a change, it automatically resets the clock figuratively and is rebuilding the book. So oftentimes you're making lots of changes and OnBoard is trying to rebuild the book and start over each time. So now we're going to kind of pause on that. And as you're making a lot of changes, we're going to start the clock at 30 minutes. Now that does not mean that you cannot choose to build your book immediately. So you're still going to have the option to build your book. And you can also kind of set it and forget it. So if you need to go work on something else, you can select to have it notify you upon completion, and it'll send you an email and let you know that the book is ready. And then one other piece that I don't have a screenshot for here is if you are making a change during a meeting. Currently, your members cannot open the book, the current version of the book that was available while a new book is being built. with this new feature, they will continue to be able to access the most recent version of the book, and then once the new version is available, it will let them know on the screen. That way, if you're making any changes during the meeting, it doesn't disrupt, and they can still kind of continue on. So there's more detail about that coming, but just a little sneak peek there. The second item is summary emails, meeting update emails, right? So for example, here is a picture of an email telling the attendee that you have an upcoming meeting on June 6th. It has, if you have remote meeting information like a Zoom or WebEx or a teleconference type meeting, all of that information is right here. And I'm super excited that for those of you that either are using RSVP within OnBoard or want to use RSVP, they will be able to RSVP right from the email. They'll also be able to see little reminders like, hey, you've only read 26% of the meeting materials. Maybe they want to go right into the meeting book and pick up where they left off. They can do that. It'll also summarize changes in the location, changes in the time, changes in the materials. So those are things that we're working on, as well as information about what sections are being viewed the most. That way they might want to go back in and review those sections. So just some helpful insights to help with your engagement and preparedness so that you can move directly into those deliberations and discussions at the meeting and people are well prepared. And then lastly, we're working on a task management. This screenshot has a lot going on in it, but basically, as with any kind of task management, it has the most common things. You can have the status of the task. You can put a deadline on the task. You can assign someone to the task. You can associate the task to a meeting, and basically have just this, even more well-rounded solution to help you, especially as we're going into those, the more telework situation, remote learning, remote meetings in the next several months. So these are, of course, subject to change, but hopefully you are excited about that little bit of a sneak peek. And thanks for hanging with me. I know we're just a couple minutes over the 45-minute mark. One other thing to kind of keep you in the know about what's coming, in addition to product enhancements that we're working on, is our next webinar. So given the climate of this COVID-19 coronavirus, we have everyone now kind of working remotely more and more. So we're going to focus our next April webinar on remote meetings. It'll be April 21st. Watch your email for that. But we want to make sure that you know how you can maybe use OnBoard a little bit differently or more out of the box as you're trying to continue with your business continuity. And just expand your usage, giving you ideas, making sure you're really leveraging and maximizing the tools that we have for collaboration, as well as the fact that you have unlimited storage for putting in materials to kind of help. So whether it's in this state that we're in or down the road, we want to make sure that you are well equipped to take advantage of what you have access to or consider adding on some features to assist with that collaboration and engagement piece. So with that, I'm going to end on the picture of our team. Thank you guys so much for attending. If we did not get something answered for you, we'll be reaching out. Thank you for participating in the polls today. A very, very special thank you to our guest, Heather Fazey with the Kentucky Council on Post-Secondary Education. Thank you again, Heather. Hopefully you guys have all found her section to be really invaluable to see firsthand how you can integrate this OnBoard public posting feature into your workflow. So thanks again, Heather. Thanks, Dean. And we will hopefully catch you next time. Everybody be healthy and stay safe and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Both very
Thanks,
much.
everybody.
Yes,
Thanks,
thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, Jenny and Dean.
Thank you.